Hi, in this video I'll show you how to create ECS cluster and deploy containers via Fargate using ECS. This project is simple, deploying an Nginx app and using ALB as a load balancer. Okay, so let's create the ECS cluster. So you go to AWS console, and in recently visited, if you don't have the Elastic Container Service, just go to the search bar, you type ECS, it should be the first result. Click on that, then go to the sidebar clusters, and then create cluster. Here there is a generated random name, so it's okay for this demo. We're going to use it, and infrastructure we're going to use Fargate only. You have other options too, but for this video we're going to use serverless, so you don't need to manage infrastructure. So we do create. Now the cluster is being created, and you can check it by clicking here on CloudFormation. And now CloudFormation is going to create the infrastructure for the ECS cluster. It's basically going to create the ECS cluster, and you can refresh and you see it's created. Now if you want to check the template of the ECS CloudFormation template, you go here and you have all the details, and we have the outputs also, and you can check the outputs. ECS cluster. Okay, so if you want, you can commit this code to the Git repository if you need to create more and more ECS clusters via GitOps. Okay. So now the cluster has been created. We need to create a task. Okay, so we'll go to task definition, click create task definition. Here we're going to use a simple web service. We use Nginx here. And we're going to use Fargate, okay, as a serverless. No need to manage instances, EC2, all this stuff. So it's easier for you to just get started right away. Operating system architecture, obviously we're going to use Linux, but we're going to use here the ARM64, which is better in performance. For the CPU, 1 is okay, maybe we'll do 2 GB. Okay, we don't need roles for now. And for the container, we're going to use the name Nginx. And we're going to use the URI from Docker of Nginx. Okay, so this will take the image from Docker repository, the public repository. Now, if you have custom built images, so you're probably going to use ECR, which you build the images with your code, and then you can use it here. For this video, we're going to use the public Nginx from Docker Hub. So this Nginx using port 80, so we're going to use port 80 with HTTP, of course. And for login, not going to use login for this demo, but if you want to, you can use it. Obviously, for production apps, you need logging for this kinds of deployment. And that's it. We do create. And it's created. Okay, so let's check the JSON. Okay, this is the task definition JSON. So this is everything that it's in the task, right? So we're using Fargate, we're using the Nginx image, we're using the port 80, the CPU, the memory, and the ARM64, right? Okay. So now let's go to the cluster, and now we need to create a service. Okay, so the service needs a task definition. That's why we created the task definition before the service. Okay, so now you can choose the Nginx. I'm going to use latest. Maybe for you it's going to be a different version because you already did some testing, but you probably want to use the latest. Probably going to be number one in your case if you didn't create that definition before. Service name is going to be Nginx service, again generated. It's fine for this demo. The capacity provider strategy, this is how you use the infrastructure, the Fargate. So here we have the option Fargate and Spot. So with Fargate is on demand, right? It's a serverless that is guaranteed usage. With Spot, it's not guaranteed. Basically, it depends on Spot capacity. Now, Spot is much cheaper, and for this demo, we're going to use Spot, but for production, you're probably going to use Fargate with a mixture of Spot, which you can add here, and then you can play with the weight and the base, so you can distribute it. Okay, for this demo, we're going to do Spot, and we're going to do replica. Availability zone rebalancing, we don't need this for one. Desired task, let's do 2. So it's going to deploy 2 Fargates here. Okay, for the networking, we're going to use this VPC that already created here. And we're going to use the default security group here. And it's already chose for us the 2 subnets, public subnets that have internet access. Okay, so you can add more, but specifically for this VPC, it's only have 2 public subnets. Now, if you're using the default one, you have more subnets, right? But I use the custom one that I already built. Okay, now public IP. This is where the Fargate gets a public IP from the AWS, so you can go online on the internet. Because if you disable this, it's only going to have a private IP. Okay, so we're going to play with this later. Auto scaling for now we're not going to use, but you do have this option, and load balancing also we're going to use. So we're going to create a new load balancer, but first let's create the server. Okay, so the service has now been created. We can check it in CloudFormation. So it's in progress. And again, if you want to check the template, you can come here. And these are all the infrastructure that is being deployed. As you can see, the desired count is 2. This is replica. Strategy rolling. All the information here. And the outputs also, which is not here yet because it didn't finish. So this is very good if you can just copy this, put this in a Git repository, connect it to CI/CD, and then you can deploy, you modify this and deploy services, right, automatically instead of doing this manually. So you can also take that as definition and modify everything here. Okay, so while it's working, let's create the ALB so we can connect to it. Okay, so before we're going to use target group. Okay, the target group is where the Fargates is going to be registered. The Fargate is going to register the target group, and the target group is going to be working with the ALB. So basically user coming to the ALB, then the target group, then the Fargate. So we're going to use IP addresses here. You have all kinds of instances, but we're going to go, this application is, or this demo is full serverless. So we're going to go with IP, but you have also other options. So we're going to call this ECS, maybe ECS target group. Again, the port is 80 HTTP, so it's good. The VPC, we're going to use the custom VPC created. For this, we're going to use the protocol HTTP 1 or 2. So you have both here, okay? Health check, it's going to be HTTP and it's going to the slash, the root of the Nginx. So when the Nginx starts, when it's deployed, it's page Nginx. If that works, then the health check is okay. So for here, we're going to do the interval, maybe something less, 10 seconds, so we can get a quick registry. And again, success code 200, it's going to register the Fargate with 5 attempts, 5 consecutive health checks will register the Fargate. So next. Here we can register the IPs, but we're not going to do that. We do it automatically using the service. Okay, so using the ECS service. Okay, so now we have this target group. Let's go to load balancers. And create load balancer. We're going to use application load balancer. You have other options like network and gateway, but for this video we're going to use application. It's perfect for this setup. And we call it ECS ALB, and it's going to be internet facing. In case you don't want to have a public IP address, then you do internal, and then it's going to take from the subnet of the internal addresses, and you have internal load balancer. But we're going to use the internet IPv4. I'm going to choose the subnet that we created, and I'm going to choose the availability zones. Okay. Now normally ALB needs 2 or more availability zones. Security group, we're going to use default, and we're going to use HTTP port ID for the listener, and the target group is the target group we just created. So we're going to pick this one, and that's pretty much for the load balancer. So now it's been created, and now we have a load balancer and a target group, and as you can see, the 0 Fargates. Okay, so let's check what's going on with the service, and the service is ready, and we have the tasks here, and you can see 2 running tasks. Right, so if we go here and we go to the public IP, this is the public IP we set to associate or to assign. And now if we go to this public IP in port 80, we should get the Nginx welcome page, and if not, then it means the port is not open. So let's check the security group. Here we go. Okay, so the inbound, as you can see, it's only coming from a specific security group. So now let's add a rule. So we do HTTP from anywhere. Okay, not recommended, but again, if you have an app that customers use from everywhere, then you're going to need this to be open. Okay, so there's other way to secure this, by the way, but for this video we're going to use this for anywhere. And here we should get the Nginx. So once the security group has been opened, now we have the Nginx. This is coming directly from the Fargate. So if we go to the tasks again, you can see this is the first one, and the second one, take the public IP of the second one, and we just use it, and now you can see the second one is also working. So that's great, but we can't have this IP keep changing all the time, right? So that's why we need the load balancer. So let's connect the load balancer here. So you go to update service, and here in the Nginx service, we go to load balancing, use load balance, add load balancer, and we created application load balancer, so we're going to use the application load balancer. Here you can choose existing load balancer, so we're going to choose the ECS we created before. Listener is port 80, target group is ECS target group. Now you have options for auto scaling, but we're not going to do this in this video, so this should be okay. We're going to push update. Okay, now it's connected. Now let's go to the target group and check if we have okay, this is the target group, and we should get this here. Once the deployment, let's see, okay, so it's activating now, so it's going to go to the target soon. So we have both of those running without a target, and this one is with the target. Okay, now you can see one Fargate is already added, and the second should be, yeah, it's also running. Okay, now we have both registered. Okay, so now both the Fargates are registered to the ALB. So now if we go here to the ALB and we click on DNS name, there you go. Now the Nginx is also working with the ALB and not the specific IP like here. Okay, so obviously you can modify this URL to use your own custom domain. Okay, so this is how you create the apps, create the ECS clusters, right? And you can deploy any custom app you want to ECS. Now let's modify something here. Let's go to service, let's do update service, and desired task, let's do 4 and update. Now let's wait. We have here tasks that are running, and as you can see, 2 more provisioned, and now we have 4 Fargate to distribute the app, right? So the load balancer will now going to add 2 more. We have here 2, going to add 2 more. Once it's finished the provisioning and passed the health check. Okay, now we have 4 running, and we have 4 target and 4 healthy. So now the load balancer will distribute the requests per Fargate. So you can do refresh and refresh and refresh and refresh. And what's going on under the hood is the load balancer is distributing requests. Okay, maybe it's using only one if it's configured to use stickiness, maybe it's using one, but you get the idea that you have now 4 Fargates for your app. Okay, so this is how you use it, and obviously you can change the Nginx to do any application, custom application you want. So this is how you do it with ECS.